Hey guys, Jay here from the Legion of Two, and as requested by all you lovely people on Instagram, here is a story from my time working at Games Workshop. Now, we all meet some very unique people in this hobby, but before we go on, I just want to be clear, I am not making light of any potential mental health issues this individual may or may not have had, but on this particular occasion, after what he told me, all I could think of was,
What?
now, this person was a frequent customer to the shop and he was very, very proud of one particular character and he claimed that it was undefeated in combat. Now, that alone is the chance to have a good conversation with your customer, talk about what you've done to him, what strategies, how you charged him in, and even make some jokes like, oh, you're using loaded dice or you're fudging the numbers, just to have a wee bit of banter. But then there was one day he came into the shop looking completely depressed, and honestly, looking at him, you would have thought somebody had died. So I headed over to sort of see what was wrong, and he then proceeded to tell me that the character for the first time had lost in combat. So I think to myself, sort of joking around, he's pretending to be heartbroken. So I play along and I'm like, oh, did you forget your loaded dice this time? Or did you fluff that charge? Or even though I'm quite a cold-hearted, I am thinking that I may be able to convince him into buying something because that is my core objective, really. I'm there to sell models. But he just looks at me like I've insulted his mum. And I realize, oh, he's actually serious. So I sort of changed tactic and I plaster on a suitably sympathetic face and I start to give him the usual, oh, what happened? Tell me what the crack is. It happens to everybody sometime. What's going on? But then he says something quite strange to me. He says, well, if that's the case, you must be out of fortune. Now, I ignore the unintentional insult and I sort of say to myself, okay, and ask him what he means. Now, this is the exact words he said to me, and it really, really got to me because it started off with he couldn't bear the shame of using the same character again. So with that, I say to myself, okay, that's fair enough. This character was quite big. He was quite special. You must have really put a lot of your personality into this individual. At least he'd still look quite nice on your shelf, maybe thinking that, it was done by a cheap shot or he was beaten some way of combat, Maybe he'd got a wee bit of a slagging about it, how, oh, this guy was undefeated and now he got hammered and he was just getting a good bit of ribbon. But then he turns around to me and says, I buried him. And I said, oh, okay, you put him into storage. And he says to me, no, I buried him out my backyard. And this is my reaction. Now, I completely just go blue screen at this point. Like, I'm on a screensaver. And my brain went 1,000 thoughts a minute, and within the span of like 5 seconds, I you not, this is what went through my head. That mini cost near £30. This person can afford to throw away a mini worth £30. It was fully painted and based. Why did he bury it? Was there a funeral fire? It is a soldier fighting in a war, so he should have had some sort of Viking burial. Is this a punishment for it not doing well? Did he make it a little headstone? Was there a eulogy? Did he have a few people around for like a beer or something? Was there a wake? Did he have a firing squad? Because this game is totally based on the dice and the rule of averages, you would expect him to have lost sometime. So is he thinking that this guy has sold him out? Does this guy think that, the model is in some sort of anime and he fought a worthy opponent, so he has to commit seppuku? Was he taking the piss? Is this a joke? It has to be a joke. But why isn't he laughing? I really should say something. He's staring at me.
These are the eyes of a psychopath.
God, how long have I been thinking about this? Okay, I need to say something. So, apart from the fact I was shell-shocked, and I was literally standing there, I think with my mouth open, I did have a bit of a non-committal answer where I just sort of said, huh, and then realised another customer needed help, and I walked immediately away to interact with this other person before I started laughing, and all I could think of was, in the end, what a terrible waste, but should I have got him a mass card? Now, that is the first story that I can think of something strange that happened when I worked at Games Workshop. Do you have such a personal connection with your minis? Do you think this guy was off his gourd? Do you think it was completely justified? Would you like to hear a few more of the crazy stories I have? Put it down in the comments or send us a direct message. And as usual, please like, subscribe, go to the Instagram and do all that usual stuff. Thanks now. Bye bye.